So for this scenario, you are returning home from a short vacation. You stop at the grocery store on the outskirts of town for a snack, for a rest, you know, before you start driving home. You are at least an hour from home, okay? As you kind of peruse the aisles, thinking, what do I want? Kit Kats? Or should I stay healthy and get a little, those little vegetable, whatever, the carrot little packets with some ranch? Gunshots ring out. Bang, bang, bang. People scream. Chaos ensues. And now there's an active shooter situation in the store. Okay? So first question. Do you A, stay low, zigzag to cover before assessing where the threat is coming from, or B, stay in your position and just determine where the shots are coming from?
I would zigzag, find out where the shots are coming, because you always got to run, you got to run towards the danger.
That's right. And it goes back to basic soldiering skills, right? You hear gunshots, you basically just drop to the deck and hope someone calls, contact left, contact right, you know? So same thing applies, like take cover and then, okay, now where the hell is that? You know, where did it come from? Okay, good job. You are starting out with an A plus.
Oh,
all right. So yeah, don't freeze, but and certainly get off the X. Staying low to the ground and finding cover gives you better chances of survival than freezing where you're at and looking around for the bad guy. So you stay low, you get moving. Next, do you A, get behind a large rack of food in order to hide from the shooter, or B, stay low and zigzag over to one of those freestanding meat coolers?
Oh, meat cooler.
Right. And why? I know you know the answer.
Well, that meat's going to stop some of the bullets.
Right. Cover versus concealment. So for you listeners, once again, if you can choose cover over concealment, you should. Now, that doesn't mean you're always going to have it right there readily available. No. That's why you use concealment in order to get to cover. But if cover is closer, then take cover. And reminder, you guys have already heard this 1,000 times, but cover is anything that stops bullets. Okay, concealment just hides you, but bullets will fly right through it. Okay.
Oh yeah.
And I like to compare it to vehicles. You're out in a parking lot. You can get behind the engine block, or you can get behind the trunk. The trunk is hollow. Bullets pass right through it. So always pick the engine block. All right. So it's kind of the same. When you're walking around a store, look for things that stop bullets. That should be your first choice. Okay. Now, you've taken cover behind the freestanding freezer. Gunshots continue. Do you A, try to determine where the shots are coming from, or B, just sprint for an exit, which is on the other end of the store?
No, you got to find out where the shots are coming from and stop it.
That's right. Yes, you hit it right on. Get eyes on the shooter. And just a reminder, shots fired indoors is completely different than shots fired outdoors. Shots fired indoors become omnidirectional. You may not be able to determine the direction of gunfire and trust your ears. You have to end up trusting your eyes, which means take a minute, look, listen, and smell, and just take it all in and try and figure out where the bad guy is. That's going to do you, it's going to do you better than just trusting your ears by themselves. Okay. Out of all the active shootings, only one of them has put ear pro on. It was the Walmart shooting. He actually put ear pro on as he walked in, right? A couple of years ago. Everyone else, they don't bother, which gives you, as a person in that grocery store, an advantage, right? As soon as that guy pulls the trigger, that first gunshot, I guarantee you, his ears are ringing. He's not going to hear you running up from behind him to tackle his ass and beat the shit out of him. He's not going to hear you flank him because guess what? He's got tunnel vision. He's looking front sight focus and he is concentrating on what he's shooting. So don't think for a second because a shooter has a gun and you don't that somehow you're at a disadvantage. You're not, okay? He's deaf and he's borderline blind and you should take advantage of that, okay? That's just a little sidebar. There is no right or wrong answer with a lot of this stuff. I mean, because the situation dictates, and it's a very dynamic, high stress, zero time situation. But like I've always said, if you're thinking through these scenarios when you have plenty of time, and zero stress, then it's allowing you to make decisions now while things are peaceful and quiet. There's no gunshots. So that if this happens to you, you've already made the hard decisions. You already know what you're going to do. And that's really the goal. So even though it's further away, you choose to go that route because it's less dangerous. And moving from cover to cover, you head to the rear exit. You pass through the rear employee-only area, and you find yourself at the rear exit. Do you A, exit quickly and run? Or B, slowly crack that rear door, peeking out to make sure the coast is clear?
No, I'd crack it out. I'd crack and take a look out.
Well, congratulations, Jason. You have survived this podcast, buddy. Great answers. Great details. Is there anything you would add to some of these scenarios out of your experience in law enforcement that, people should do, think about?
One last thing.
If
you are a civilian and as soon as law enforcement comes and it's clear and safe, identify yourself. If you're law enforcement and law enforcement comes, identify yourself, because you don't want to be put down. You don't want blue on blue. You don't blue.
Yeah. So what do you think is the best way for a civilian? Let's say you don't want the cops thinking that the civilian is the active shooter, right? Which could be very easy to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cop could definitely kill a good Samaritan, and it's because it's such a dynamic situation. So what do you suggest? Is it hands up? I mean, what's kind of what do you think
hands up is the best thing, because hands down by the waist, that equals death. You're always looking for that. If you're law enforcement, the first thing you're going to look at is the hands.
What if I have my pistol, for example, that I'm carrying every day? I just blasted a bunch of bad guys. Here comes the cops. Pistol in my hand in the air?
Now,
or should I just throw that fucking thing away?
Yep. I'd place it on the ground.
Just get rid of it.
And then do that.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with law enforcement. One thing I do visualize a lot is if I do get an active shooter situation, is in my little fanny pack, I have my creds.
Yeah.
And with law enforcement creds, like me, because I'm Fed, I have a little flap that goes over my badge. So I got to make sure when I pull out my badge that I pull that flap over and I'm holding up the badge.
Yeah.
So they can identify. You can just hold up your wallet and they're gonna be like, what the fuck's up with this guy? But you have to show that badge.
Yeah, shit, I'm doing that shit. You're listening to Can You Survive This Podcast? Thanks for tuning in. Please make sure to subscribe, rate, and share on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your favorite shows.